Hey everyone, Jared Sandler here with my wacky hair, Zach Wolchuk, Eric Chiofalo. What's going on, fellas?
Howdy. You're looking
So,
good,
dude,
dude.
I feel
I
good.
think the hair's on point today, man. You were wearing a hat. We should take the hat off and just let the hair roam free, and I think you're crushing it.
It's the only time in my life that I've just kind of not cared one bit about anything from the neck up. So
Shouldn't.
I'm enjoying this. So Eric and Zach, you probably know from the Nosebleed Seats. You can hear them Monday through Friday from 7 to 11 on 105.3 The Fan. If you're not listening, you should. I listen to them a lot when I do my dishes. Put it on the radio.com app since I'm not right now often in my car from 7 to 11. Entertaining stuff. And I enjoy our Just Banging segments with them every night at 8:40 that I figured, hey, let's do this once a week video. Let's show everyone how sexy we all are and
Yeah.
talk sports while doing it.
So hot.
I'm fired up, man. So you listen to us mostly when you're doing the dishes. It's funny. We found that a lot of our listeners, they like to listen to the Nosebleed Seats when they're taking a bath. That
Yeah, tubbing.
we're soothing in the
tubbing.
bathtub for our listeners. Yeah, a lot of tubbing.
Shower as well. The shower is a very popular place.
I will listen in the shower. My shower's I don't take baths, but my shower's constructed in a way where I've got like a little ledge and I can prop my phone up without worrying about any water splashing. So I bring the phone into the shower with me, which I probably doesn't help my separation anxiety from my phone, but allows me to get full bleeding whenever I shower at night.
Yeah, no, that's ideal situation. Are you firmly against taking a bath? Is it like a man code violation or?
No, I guess not. I just never it
That's
has been a thing for me. When I'm like
No baths.
really sick, maybe I will, but no, I haven't. I don't know the last time I took a bath. The last time I took a bath was in 2017. It was that was the Patriots Falcons Super Bowl, right?
Yeah.
And I had both bronchitis and the flu.
Oh no, that sounds brutal. I've had bronchitis and I've had the flu separately. Together, that sounds like the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, it was pretty brutal. I was in Abilene for a Rangers caravan event, and a guy named Jamie Roberts had to drive from wherever he lived in Dallas to come and get me in Abilene and drive me home. I actually wore a mask just like people are wearing these days the whole ride home because they didn't want me. It was Robinson Chirinos was on it and Andrew Faulkner, who's no longer with the Rangers, and they didn't want me riding the bus back at risk of getting them sick. I don't blame them. But I was absolutely miserable, guys. Brutal.
Dude, that's a good friend coming to pick you up right there.
I never met him.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That was crazy.
For paying attention.
He worked for the Rangers, and he's like in sales, and they're like, Jamie, we need you to come and get this guy.
Poor Jamie. He probably ended up getting bronchitis from the flu the next day.
I did not sign up for this. I'm a sales rep.
How brutal
Did I get a raise? Did you tip well?
You know what? I definitely apologized to him at least 50 times and thanked him at least 50 times. I think I provided some sort of alcoholic thank you as a
okay.
salute to his service.
Hey,
Perfect.
That's fine. I would accept that graciously.
All right, so we don't really have a name for this yet. As tentatively just hanging with the Nosebleed Seats, or I don't know, maybe just banging with the Nosebleed Seats. We'll figure it out. But anyone have any new
Chiofalo? I don't know.
Just let us know. You can put it in the comments section. All right, so we're gonna do this weekly. We're gonna have a little fun. It's really impossible not to have fun with Eric and Zach, but we're also gonna talk a little sports. And today, the topic of conversation is that Cowboys defense, fellas, because everyone's talking about the offense and how dynamic it could be and how exciting it could be and all the weapons and this and that. But we haven't really talked a whole lot about the defense. And I think we've kind of gotten to the point where the defense wins championships thing has been proven untrue, but you just can't have like a horrible defense. You still have to have an average defense. So the Cowboys last year were disappointing in a lot of areas defensively. So let's figure out what we want to see differently from this defense here in 2020 under the direction of a new coaching staff, which I think is a significant part of this conversation.
Yeah, that's the coaching staff part of it's going to be huge. And we kind of kicked this around on our show the other night. I know KNC had a similar conversation last week, and it was just sort of like we're going to see a lot of changes philosophically from the Cowboys defense this year, going from Marinelli and Richard and their vanilla, married to one or two coverage defense to a Mike Nolan defense. It's going to be much more multiple, much more versatile. And so, but we were kind of asking the question, what's the number one change you would want to see from the Cowboys defense? If you could only pick one thing, what's the one improvement you would want to see? And not so much a results-oriented thing, but what's the process to get you to those results? So obviously, we want to see more turnovers. We want to see better tackling. We want to see them keeping teams from scoring a bunch of points. But what's the change you're going to see in the process that's going to get you to that point? So we kind of kicked it around. I'm curious to your thoughts, Jared. But for me, it was just being aggressive. Like the Cowboys under Marinelli and Richard were, let's rush four. Let's not do anything in the way of blitzing, really. They were bottom third in the league every year under Marinelli in terms of their blitz rate. They just didn't make quarterbacks uncomfortable. Last year, they played a bunch of young Mitchell Trubisky's, Jeff Driscoll's, Josh Allen's, Sam Darnold's, and they didn't do anything to make them uncomfortable. And all those quarterbacks had decent success against the Cowboys defense. It was Sam Darnold even coming out after the game and saying, we knew exactly what they were going to do. And so I think the Cowboys need to be aggressive, not just in the front seven with the blitzing, but also in the back end. The Cowboys have been so concerned about giving up the big play, the big touchdown pass through the air, that I think they've been coaching their secondary over the last few years to not take the aggressive, hey, you think you can jump the route, go get the interception. They've been coaching them, hey, don't do that. We don't want to give up the big play. We'll give up the 10-yard pass, but if you jump the route and miss the interception and they take it for a 40-yard touchdown, then they were going to be super upset, basically. So I'm hoping for, let's be aggressive in the front seven. Let's blitz. Let's make these quarterbacks uncomfortable. But also in the back end, let's make sure that our corners feel good about, hey, let's go try to make a big play, even if that means at times you are going to surrender big plays as well. Let's go try to jump that route, get the interception. An interception or an interception for a touchdown, those are game-changing plays for teams, and I don't think the Cowboys have had enough of that.
Right. And you know what? There's going to be a give and take there, as you mentioned. I mean, last year I think we saw it by wanting Dak to be a little bit more aggressive, maybe push the football down the field. There was that narrative going in. It was more of a dink and Dak offense. Well, we saw that change. Dak Prescott, statistically last year, was the best deep passer in football, which is absolutely shocking. I don't think anybody would have thought that, but the numbers show that Dak was actually really good pushing the football down the field. Now, he certainly had more turnovers in terms of interceptions than we've seen previously, but that's what comes with that. If you're going to take more risk, it's going to come with turning the ball over a little bit more. So we might be pulling our hair out and saying, man, the Cowboys just gave up a 60-yard bomb, but it's going to be worth it when you add a multitude of interceptions, or even maybe you get a pick six. I mean, heck, when's the last time we saw this Cowboys defense get a pick six?
I remember.
It would be so beautiful to see. So there is some give and take there. The other thing for me when we're talking about the secondary is, not only the changing and disguising and coverages, which Xavier Woods just talked about, and we heard George Iloka go on a podcast and say basically Chris Richard yelled at him for disguising a coverage, which I thought was just maddening. I don't get that. I don't understand that in today's NFL, with how intelligent offensive coaches are and how smart these quarterbacks are. You're just going to absolutely show exactly what you're doing and just say, hey, we're better than you. Come beat us. They're going to pick you apart. And that's why every single quarterback, Jeff Driscoll, Mitchell Trubisky, Josh Allen, even guys that you don't think are that good, looked like Pro Bowlers against the Cowboys secondary last year. They were put in a position to fail, in my opinion. And hopefully, with Coach Mo and Mike Nolan, that changes this year. And I wonder if, the way that they were teaching the DBs to not play the ball, right? It was all about, let's play the receiver. Cheeto is a guy who is a confidence player, and you could tell his confidence was shot last year. I think Cheeto has all the tools to be a good corner in the NFL. Now, I'm not going to try and overrate it here and say he's going to be a Pro Bowler, but I think he can be a good player for you. I think he can be a solid starter, and that's been proven. That's all you need. I mean, look at the teams that have won Super Bowls recently. The Kansas City Chiefs, Breeland and Fuller, good corners. I mean, are they elite? I don't know, but they're good players. I think Cheeto can be a good player. And with a different philosophy and playing the ball versus playing the receiver, I think could benefit not only him, but Cheeto, Jordan Lewis, Anthony Brown, maybe Darrell Worley, and hopefully Diggs as well comes in and Reggie Robinson II, the two rookies, can play well as well. The other thing is the defense, the run D. Huge issue under Rod Marinelli. And we talked about that on our show. I felt that Marinelli's philosophy of playing the run on the way to the quarterback was creating just huge gaps in the Cowboys' run D. It just created massive running lanes. It knocked them out of the playoffs in 2018, and last year teams ran all over them. That Minnesota game, they squandered maybe Dak Prescott's best performance of the season because the defense couldn't stop Dalvin Cook and Alexander Mattison. Now, the philosophy changed. They've added bulk inside with Gerald McCoy and Dontari Poe and drafting Neville Gallimore. That should help, but also just the difference in approach in terms of how they're lining up, maybe covering up their running gaps a little bit better, I think should also help the run defense quite a bit. So philosophically, I think this is just such a welcome change, not only with Mike McCarthy, but the defense and the special teams coaches as well. I can't wait, and I'm with you on the aggressiveness. It gets me excited. Having a defense that is going to dictate the pace versus let's just wait and let the offense come to us, I think is something that wins in today's league. You've got to try and pressure. The best defenses in football last year, they're pressuring. They're being aggressive. Eric, you used the example of the Ravens, and I'd like to see a little bit more of that with the Cowboys in 2020.
So, first of all, adding Dontari Poe is like an immediate indication that, hey, things have changed, right? Like, we're now at a point where we're going to actually give a crap about the interior part of the D-line. That's never a guy that they would have gotten under Marinelli. They didn't want the beef. And by the way, who doesn't want beef? I mean, I love a good steak.
Dude, I'm having burgers for lunch today.
Oh, dude. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, what?
Oh, Wolchuk, you can come over, man. I think we might have like a little thin patty left for you if you're interested in that. There's no cheese left, though.
Convenient. No wonder Eric was a little late. He was too busy concealing this meat that he didn't make for us.
Getting those patties together, boys. Getting those patties together.
Clapping, a little Jason Garrett clapping for the patties.
Yeah.
Last night it was the ribs. I mean, geez, man, this is just – I thought we were family.
Yeah, weird. It's all right. We'll stick together, though, Zach. We're South African. Eric's not.
Lots of ball Mondays, baby. It's been a
Lots
party.
of balls, boys.
So, the other thing, too, you mentioned the aggression. I think, like, the number was 26. I think they were 26 in blitz rate, which, Eric, you mentioned bottom third. It's a brutal number. And I just think that, like, with the offenses now and how the rules are geared towards the offense and offenses in general are more dynamic, it's almost like you've got to do the bend, don't break. You got to have the bend, don't break philosophy, because unless you are just stacked talent-wise, which this team is not defensively, you can't expect to try and just use defense as a dominant tool. And I know that, like, in the 90s and early 2000s with, like, the Ravens and stuff, it's like, hey, we don't need to rush more than 4, beat our 7 guys in coverage. We're going to stop the run, but we're going to make it tough for you to pass. But they had the horses to do that. It was also a different NFL. And I think, like, when Mike McCarthy won a Super Bowl, they had a very bend, don't break defense. And they made tons of big plays in that Super Bowl run, whether it was a big sack or an interception.
Man, he was a beast at that safety spot for them.
Yeah.
Didn't he have the pick 6 in that Super Bowl?
Yeah, so, I mean, I just think that you've got to do that. And I don't know how talented Trayvon Diggs is or Reggie Robinson or some of these unknown commodities. I think we have an idea about Cheeto and Jordan Lewis and Anthony Brown, and maybe they're varying degrees of our beliefs of how good they are. But I don't think those guys are great. And so I think you got to help them be great. And I don't know. I know some people have the opposing view of this. I've always thought that pressure on the quarterback makes your guys in coverage better. I know some people take the coverage sack philosophy where great coverage makes your line better. And I guess that's true. I just think with the athletes that we have on the D-line these days, I more approach it the other way around. I think you get pressure on the quarterback, be it from your traditional rushers or with blitzes. You're going to make the guys in the secondary better. And I don't think it's a coincidence that the Cowboys didn't really do that last year or really under Marinelli, and it also went hand in hand with them developing this reputation of a no-turnover team. I mean, interceptions change games, but so do sacks. And not that DeMarcus Lawrence has been sack-averse by any means, but, even last year, only 5 sacks, and I don't even think it was necessarily his fault. I thought he was great. But, gosh, if you don't have to worry about pressure coming from this unknown player or that side of the – it's a lot easier to prepare for that. And the Cowboys were just so – I mean, they left you nothing. It's like you have a hot girl and she walks around naked and, there's nothing that you're curious about. You see it all. The Cowboys were that last year. They weren't even that good looking.
So let me jump in here because you're right. And I do think that they improved, right? When you look at – we talked about the defensive tackle spot. You essentially lose Malik Collins and you gain a Gerald McCoy. And Gerald McCoy, I think, Malik Collins' best attribute was, I guess, his pass rushing ability. But did we look at Malik Collins and say, man, that guy is a really good pass rusher as a 3-tech? No, he was a splash player. Gerald McCoy has proven that over the course of his career, and I know he's getting a little bit older, he's not in his prime anymore, but I think his intelligence and his veteran leadership, God, that looks so good right now, is something that, one, he can be just as good as Malik Collins, but he's also a better run defender. I think him in the middle, and then also now with the edge players the Cowboys have brought in. Jared, I know we disagree with how effective Aldon Smith can be. Yeah. I'm optimistic with Aldon Smith. I'm not trying to say Aldon Smith's going to have double-digit sacks this year, but I think he's going to be an impact player. I really do. I think he can help this team and be a productive player. Same with Randy Gregory if he gets reinstated. Dorrance Armstrong, Joe Jackson. You guys know I have an affinity for Bradley Anae. He was my favorite draft pick outside of CeeDee Lamb. So I think the Cowboys have set themselves up to have one of the deepest end rotations that they have had in recent memory, which will all help these guys stay fresh, and 2, you got D-Law, but now you also have the ability to kick Tyron Crawford back inside. And maybe Crawford starts the season as your starting right end while you get Aldon Smith and Randy Gregory back acclimated, but he's not going to be there forever. And he's proven he's a much better player when you move him inside, and he's also a good disruptor playing inside as well. So if you're envisioning passing down situations with DeMarcus Lawrence, and on the other side, Aldon Smith or Randy Gregory, plus Gerald McCoy and Tyron Crawford inside, I really like that 4 rushing the quarterback. I think the Cowboys have the ability to be disruptive.
And if Jalen Smith's going to be on the field, he's got to be on the field as a north-south pass rusher, right? I mean, we can't have this guy dropping back. That's the other thing, too, is it seemed like I understand the thought of, hey, this is my system and you're going to learn my system, or this is what's worked for me. But you also have to cater and mold to the players. And they had Jalen Smith on the field, not necessarily playing out of position, but doing things he wasn't good at doing. And he's got to be a part of that pass rushing mix as well if he's going to be out on the field, because if you put that guy in coverage, you're asking for trouble, because he's just that's not – I don't know. I don't remember enough about him at Notre Dame pre-injury as to whether or not he was even decent in that respect. But post-injury, he certainly isn't.
So he was, but I'll tell you what, just even his physique, I always kind of thought maybe his best spot in the NFL would be 3-4 outside linebacker. I think that was always one of his better strengths, Eric. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I know you studied him coming out as well as I did, but I mean, sure, he was a great middle linebacker and he would have been a top 5 pick had he not gotten hurt. But I really thought just the way that he played and his style, if he had played in a 3-4, similar to a Von Miller kind of role as an outside backer, man, that dude was going to be awesome.
Yeah, he definitely showed the pass rushing ability in college, but I don't view him as a pass rusher. I view him as a really good blitzer. I don't think you can just put him on one side of the field and say, hey, go get me a bunch of sacks in a game and we're not really going to move you around. I think Jalen Smith needs to be one of those chess pieces that on any given play can be lined up in the middle, on the edge, and he does need to be attacking the quarterback almost at all times. I'm with you, Jared. Him going east and west is not good for that knee, and he showed it last year. You don't want him to be in coverage. You want him to be a disruptor, and again, I don't see him as just being a lineup on the left tackle and just go beat him in a pass rush, but if you can scheme him on some blitzes, he is super dynamic from that standpoint. And so I think that great coaches assign roles to their players. Hey, this is what you do well, and so I'm going to put you in the role to do what you do well. And Jalen Smith does the blitzing really, really well. And so I'm hoping that Mike Nolan puts him in a position to succeed from that standpoint. And I think, coupled with the aggression, I think being multiple on the defensive side, being, disguising coverages pre-snap, not being married to just man-to-man or just cover three, I think is going to go a long way for the Cowboys, and confusing quarterbacks. Like, part of it is on players to go get turnovers and just go be a stud and go ball hawk and go make plays. But a lot of it is also, hey, from a coaching standpoint, I'm gonna scheme my defense into a couple of turnovers, because that quarterback's not going to know who's coming on the blitz, or that corner or that quarterback's going to think we're in a particular coverage, and then as soon as the ball snapped, we switch into something else, we confuse them. And it wasn't that my player was that great. It was just I set him up to confuse the quarterback well enough, and he was right there in the position to succeed. I think you can fall into some turnovers just based on coaching, and it starts with being aggressive, and it also adds to it when you can be more multiple, and you can disguise things in the front seven and in the back end, and just have quarterbacks make the mistake, or the offensive coordinator. Oh my God, we weren't anticipating that happening. It wasn't that defensive player was an all-pro. Oh my God, this guy's just amazing and he's better than my quarterback and all my players. It's just defensively, we confused you. And so we fell into a turnover. And that is something that the Cowboys have lacked under Marinelli and Richard for, almost a decade.
Yeah.
All right, so 30 seconds or less. Player who most needs to exceed expectations to help this defense get to the next level. And rookies are eligible even though they haven't played an NFL snap, and expectations or more projections for them. But player who most needs to exceed expectations.
Okay, that's a really good question. I think you could go a couple different ways here. Like, you could go the Aldon Smith or Randy Gregory, expectations relatively low. If they can super exceed those, then the Cowboys could have a pretty dynamic front seven. But I'm going to go with the rookie. I'm going to go with Trayvon Diggs, because I think he's going to get thrusted into, hey, you need to be a starting corner pretty much from day one here. And if he can be anywhere close to as locked down as what Byron Jones was, that's going to be huge for this defense, because the biggest concern that I have is still the secondary. Between the safeties, the corners, there's just a lot of question marks. I feel good about the future with Trayvon Diggs and with Reggie Robinson, but for rookies, it's hard to ask them to do much. If one of those guys, Diggs or Robinson, could step up in a big way, I think that would be huge.
And I love a good thrust.
Oh, I love one too. I'm going to go – there's two players that come to mind for me. One would be Xavier Woods. I think Xavier Woods was super hyped last year coming out of training camp, was a massive disappointment. He's in a contract year. Dude needs to show something, or else I don't know what his future is in the league. The other would be Leighton Vander Esch, because I don't know what the optimism is for him right now. I don't know what the expectations are. There's so much uncertainty with the injury. And I think we saw 2 years ago an elite Leighton Vander Esch playing like a top 10 linebacker in football. Him flying around really helps mask some of the inabilities with your defense, and two, adds a ton of energy around the entire 11 players on the field, and I think makes some of the players around him even better. Those are the two guys for me that I think if they come out and play well this year, the Cowboys defense could surprise some people.
Yeah, you guys hit on the two that I was really pinpointing, Trayvon Diggs and LVE, for the reasons that you guys talked about. And I'm also, with Diggs, I'm more in I'd rather have a lockdown corner than a stud safety if given the option to choose. But if I were to, just for the sake of conversation, throw a third name out there, I guess I'd go Randy Gregory, in part because I'm not, and Zach mentioned it, it's not that I don't like Aldon Smith. It's not that I'm not rooting for the guy. I love a good, redemption story. I'm very skeptical. You miss as much time as he's missed in the middle of his career, because I know people say, well, Chad Henne missed all that time serving before, but I'm talking about in the middle of your career. I'm just
different circumstances.
Yeah. So Randy Gregory's the guy for me. I think we've seen, and I know that he might not be a 4-down player by any means, but to add a little pressure opposite DeMarcus Lawrence, I think would be incredibly beneficial. All right. We're going to have a little fun every week when we do this. I know you guys had a good conversation. The Pensacola Blue Wahoos are putting their stadium out for rent on Airbnb. You guys had a chat last night about what venues would you most want to rent if given that option, and then spend the night there. What are you guys going with?
Well, I think ballparks are dope. Listen, if I could go spend a night at Globe Life Field and I can decide throughout the day, do I want to retract the roof? Do I want to close it in, keep the AC, maybe divulge into a little bit of pluckers? Like, I'm assuming that I'm going to get all the ballpark festivities.
As you should, sir. As you should.
Yeah, so I'm fired up for that. I think another fun one, and it wouldn't be ideal necessarily for me, but I think it would be fun to get like the friends and family out. If you could like just own a theme park one night and you could just rent out the theme park, or like a water park, and it's just you and your crew and you just dominate that place, and you can do anything you want. You can set up the grill, you just own it for an entire 24 hours. That would be pretty dang awesome.
Man, those are awesome. Yeah, those are great suggestions. So for me, I threw out AT&T Stadium, which Eric immediately poo-pooed and said it's going to cost way too much because Jerry's going to make sure he upcharges. Well, we're not talking about the price here. I think if you get your buddies together and you can play a game of Warzone or Madden or FIFA, whatever you want to do on the Jumbotron, holy cow, that would be a blast. Plus, AT&T Stadium is maybe the greatest stadium on earth, right? I think that would be really cool. The other thing that I've always wanted to do, now I kind of envisioned it more as like you hang out past close and you have the whole thing to yourself, but I don't need to go the sneaky breaking and entering route here, is a mall. All the different stores that you could hit up in a mall, and you could
food court.
What are you doing at the mall?
Dick's Sporting Goods, Sharon. Okay, we can get like water guns. We can go ahead and get.
Okay, so there are people who are there to allow you to. You still have to pay for the items, or you just get to use them and not pay for them.
You get to use them. Like, I'm going to give them back to you. Sure, I'm not keeping these. All right, but yeah, you just kind of get to use everything at your disposal, right? I mean, the store, the clothing department, whatever it is, whatever your X, Y, and Z favorite stores are.
Glow in the dark golf.
Yes, I think there's so many different. There's so many different options that you could do here inside a mall. You have the whole thing to yourself. They used to even have skate rinks in some of these. I don't know if like the Galleria still does. Stonebriar Mall doesn't anymore, but like you could have even gone ice skating. I just think there's so many options if you're able to rent out a certain mall. I think that'd be a lot of fun. And there's a movie theater,
right?
Movie theater. So boom. I mean, the possibilities are endless.
Man, that mall is a great idea. You sold me on that. I think if I could get a bunch of friends, enough to field 2 teams, and get one of these like multi-purpose sports complexes where you can have a field day playing, like, you can get a little hockey, you can get a little basketball, maybe even some baseball, soccer. You can do like dodgeball, the non-traditional sports. But the problem there is I'm probably then subject to just some basic concession food, which that could be an issue.
No, that's not true, because you get to own the place. You're gonna bring that big green egg. Okay, you're gonna bring your Traeger and you're grilling out, and it's gonna be a whole party. It's cookout time. Like that's the beauty of it. You just get to do with it what you will. It's just pure freedom.
And a good, delicious ballpark hot dog, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And you can even do, make your own stuff, as Eric mentioned, not go nacho crazy. Be a little creative here with what you're doing. The Rangers, I think, do a great job every year with their concession food of being creative. Maybe you make your own delicacy. Heck, Eric came up with one of the most delicious things I think I've ever heard of the other night.
Yeah, I did. Yes, I did. I started keto, Jared. So the night before I was officially starting it, I'm going 2 weeks, no carbs. And so I was like, let me get one final delicious carb meal. And my younger brother sort of suggested like a waffle sandwich. And we had chocolate chip waffles. And I turned it into a chocolate chip waffle peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Washed it down with some chocolate milk. And it was potentially the greatest thing I've ever put in my mouth.
Wow. And there's a lot of competition for that. That space has been well occupied.
Lots of competition. So I highly recommend it. Honestly, if you're hungry right now, Jared, I think you should go ahead and put one together.
I might have to do that. All right. Every week, guys, you ready for this?
I'm so ready. I was born for this.
All right. We'll figure out a name. If you have any suggestions, let us know. But in the meantime, be sure to check out Eric and Zach Monday through Friday, 7 to 11 on 105.3 The Fan, the Nosebleed Seats. Get on the train now before I don't know it'll ever be too late, but at least you can get a first-class seat now. Get in early, buy stock early, and then don't sell. I don't ever want you to sell, but at least, your net worth goes up as the stock rises, and it will rise. Fellas, talk to you later.
Hugs and hand pounds, brother.
Love you.